Welcome back to the Gun Collective podcast. My name is Jon Patton, and as per frickin' usual, we've got another great guest. I keep telling you guys, we're just going to keep doing this. Whether you like it or not, I'm bringing the greatest guests possible to this show. But first, we have to talk about our sponsors. We've got Camorado, that's Camorado. Go buy the Sea Smoke camo. Trust me, you're going to love the way it looks. The Sea Smoke color pattern is our signature color. The design of Camorado was designed by a good friend, Sean Heron, over at We Like Shooting. You guys know Sean. We all love Sean. He does some amazing stuff. And Camorado comes in a whole bunch of different colors, whether you want to blend into your area in the country or you just want to have a little bit of style, little EDC camo, as it were. Go to camorado.com and use the code TGC. Also, check out our friends at Vertex. It's vertx.com. They have all kinds of stuff, whether you want to carry a gun EDC. They got fanny packs for that's like a thing now, right? That's a thing. And let's see, we've got backpacks. I use my Ready Pack all the time. We've got stuff for the van that I use, and it's like a vehicle storage from their VTAC line. Plus, they've got apparel, including stretchy pants. I think it's a Delta Stretch 2 point, whatever the hell it is now. The code is TGC. Go to vertx.com. And since it's the holiday time, when we're recording this, you'll probably get a little bit extra. Go check them out. Now, I am with somebody that I've known in the industry for a very long time. We've got the president of YHM, Chris Graham. Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, John?
I'm outstanding, man. It's about time we did this. We've known each other, what, like 10 years now? Something like that?
I feel like it's been longer than that, yeah.
It's been a long time. We've done a lot of stuff together over the years. We did like factory tours. We looked at all your cans. I mean, we have had a lot of opportunity to work together, which is great because I absolutely love what you guys do. Can you give the people at home that may not be familiar with YHM, aka Yankee Hill Machine, can you give them like the sort of origin story, the short version, of course, of like how it came to be your company?
How short? The 30-second version or like the 5-minute version?
Let's do the 30-second and then maybe expand.
So, Yankee Hill Machine Company was started in 1951 by my grandfather. They started out doing screw machine products, worked their way into government contracting, which led to the civilian firearms contracts, which led to my father saying, I want to put my name, company name on a firearm, which led to YHM as a brand. So we've been in business for coming up on our 75th anniversary here.
Oh,
and
shit.
we've been doing suppressors and cans for the better part of 20 years now.
And would you say that suppressors are like the thing you guys are known for at this point?
Yeah, and that's actually really funny because it's obviously I've been in the business my entire life. Since
Sure.
I could stand up, they had me pushing a broom. So it's been fun to go to the shows, and we would go in the early 2000s to SHOT Show and NRA, and people would see our parts and accessories because that's what we were really known for at the time. If you opened up the Bushmaster catalog in the late 90s, early 2000s, basically their entire BMAS line was Yankee Hill parts.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And so when we started doing suppressors in 2005, that was kind of a niche thing. It wasn't really kind of like the knowledge about how you can own them wasn't as good as it is today. So it was like a really, really small market. And when we came out with our $500 Phantom 5.56 suppressor with a QD mount, that kind of made it more approachable to the average user. And so cans kind of became a bigger thing. But getting back to my point, now we go to SHOT Show and we've got, our whole wall of accessories for the AR-15. We do complete guns. And people come up and say, well, geez, I've got 4 or 5 of your silencers. I didn't know you guys made guns and parts. And it's like, yeah, we've been doing that for 30 years.
That's got to be a little bit annoying, right?
Yes and no. I mean, we've been pushing really hard on the suppressors, because, a multitude of reasons.
Sure.
If I design a new handguard, unless it's something like a new mounting system, like when M-Lock and Keymod were taking over Picatinny, I would come out with a new Picatinny handguard. I'd put different heat vents in it, maybe play around with how thick or thin it was, and kind of hope people like the overall look and feel of it. With the suppressor, I can develop it and say, yeah, the turbo is X amount lighter than the old Phantom. You know, it's shorter, it's
Sure.
quieter. You know, I've got empirical data that I can say, you know, definitively this is a better product than what I had before. I don't have to just hope people like the same thing that I like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I will say this: I have liked your products for a very long time because the first AR I ever assembled has one of it still does. It's sitting. I don't think you won't be able to see it, but it's sitting up here on the wall, and it's got one of your old Todd Jarrett handguards on it.
Yep. Yep.
Eh,
TJ
eh,
series. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, which is a name that not a lot of people know anymore, which is
Yeah.
kind of fascinating in its own way. But I've been a big fan for a long time. I think it's pretty interesting that you know, when I look at what is the suppressor market now, I kind of see a lot of same stuff. And what's
Hmm.
really been interesting about watching what YHM does is that you guys have made like cans that perform well but are also priced really well. That was sort of when I came up and like got the walkthrough with your brother Kevin and we kind of learned about how things were being made. I just didn't quite understand how everybody else was charging so damn much. What
Yeah.
was that like always a pillar of your suppressor line?
It's always been a company philosophy, whether it's the suppressor line, the parts, the guns, any of the products. You know, we're a family-owned business. We're a small shop. You know, we've got I say small. We've got about 50 employees. You know, give or take at any given time. You know, we know who those people are. They're not numbers in a book. They're not four-digit codes in my payroll system. They're people. And so we've always had to wake up and look at ourselves in the mirror and say, am I doing the right thing as a business owner? And am I doing the right thing as a person?
Mm.
And when we started doing the suppressors, I'll be honest with you. Now I've shared the story before. We had other suppressor manufacturers come up to us and say, why are you charging so little when you know you can charge the same price as we are? And my response was, because I have no reason to screw my customer base.
I mean, and I would argue that it's probably paying you back. Have you seen people like thankful for that? Because it seems like there's a lot of when I look at say like a 5.56 can, like a normal 5.56 regular size 5.56 can, your cans are always at least a couple $100 cheaper and perform just as well, if not better, than some of those like $1,000 cans out there.
Yeah.
I mean, how has that affected the business, you think?
Honestly, it's a little bit of a catch 22. Human nature is just that if we see that something is expensive, we assume it has to be good because otherwise, why would it be so expensive?
Mm,
And
okay.
conversely, when people see, hey, the YHM suppressor is two, three, sometimes $400 less than brand X, well, it must be inferior in some way because of its price.
Because it's quote unquote cheap.
Right. That's why I like to use the term inexpensive, not cheap.
Sure, sure.
Because
I like to use affordable.
yeah, because cheap has negative connotations. It means that you've cheaped out on it somewhere. You sacrificed something for price point. Inexpensive or affordable, you know, is kind of what we're after. So we've never wanted to sacrifice the quality or the feature set of the product to meet a price point.
Sure,
And one of the reasons we can meet the price points we do is because we do it all in house. We engineer it ourselves, we design it ourselves, we program it ourselves, we machine it ourselves, we assemble it ourselves. And if anything goes wrong or there's a change that needs to happen, midway through the process, we can juggle what we need to, make some lateral moves, and just keep the machine running. We're not at the mercy of somebody else making parts for us. And if they, don't come in right, we can't ship the product. And then you know, nobody's happy with that because we can't ship and people aren't getting what they want. And we can control the price because we can design it in a way that's manufacturing friendly. So we know we can do it more efficiently.
do you have like a team of engineers doing this at this point?
We've got a couple of engineers, programmers, and then machinists and setup guys in the shop that have been with us for 20 plus years at this point.
Yeah, I remember meeting a bunch of the folks that work there, and it seems like you guys have avoided the sort of corporate bloat that a
Yes.
lot of brands start to take on. Like everybody at some companies has an assistant, and I think it's crazy.
Yeah, we have a very light management team. We don't have multiple levels of structure. It's basically myself, my general manager, my department managers, and my employees underneath that.
See,
So
that's a simple way to handle it.
yeah. Well, and
Do-
then too, if an issue arises, it's not like the Office Space scenario where you're like, Bob, I have 9 bosses. That's
9
exactly what we're
bosses.
trying to avoid. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do here?
Right. I'm a people person.
I take the specs from the engineers, or no, I take the specs from the customers and give them to the engineers. Yeah, that's what a
Yeah.
good reference, by the way. Thank you for that.
That movie's old now. Now I feel old. Thanks for that,
You
John.
stop it, like fucking stop it. I sometimes forget that I'm 40. And like when I was a kid, when I was younger, like I was like, oh man, 40 is so old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And now I'm like, I'm a spring chicken.
Yeah. I'm thinking the other day, I'm like, holy shit. Like when I was 10, now I'm the same age that my dad was when I was 10. Like I can't
Mm.
imagine having a 10-year-old right now and I'm thinking like the same way that I thought about my dad. It's like, no, I'm just some dumbass getting by doing what they can day to day. And you view your dad as like, this godlike figure, the parent knows all and they're your guiding light. And I'm like, I don't picture myself that way. I'm just a regular dude, but
I was literally having the same conversation with my girlfriend earlier today about how like my parents had, kids, multiple, and I'm a moron. I don't think I could ever manage kids and a job and all that. Like, no way, dude.
yeah.
No way. I'm an idiot.
You can't imagine a couple of rugrats living with you in the battle wagon?
Dear God, no. Dear God, no. No. I mean, to be fair, my brother has children, and I will just spoil them and give them back.
Yep.
That's the way. They're very young still too, and that's a lot of fun.
I'm in
So
the
what was it?
exact same situation. I've got 4 and 6-year-old nieces, and I can have fun with them. Like you said, spoil them and then send them home. So it's like the best case scenario.
What was it like working in a family business? Like, how long was your grandfather involved in the business? Like, when did he say, "I'm done"?
So I never worked directly for my grandfather.
Okay.
Right around the same time that I was born, not going to get into specifics, but let's say the early 80s. My grandfather was transitioning out of the business and my father was buying it from my grandfather.
I
And
see.
so
Okay.
the whole time that I was able to work there and cognizant of what this place my dad went to work at was, it was under my dad's ownership.
So what was that like? What's it like to work for
Um,
your father? That's got to be a little strange, right?
Honestly, not really, because I mean, I never really knew anything else. I never worked at McDonald's or anything like that. I had a job mowing lawns, but it was, me mowing the lawns. I was kind of doing my own little landscape business as a high school kid. Um, so I never really had anything to compare it against. But
Okay.
it wasn't like the typical sitcom, drama day in and day out. I think the only thing we really had was that my brother and I were heavily involved in the business, and obviously my dad was, and my mom wasn't.
Okay.
So very quickly, once we were all like old enough to be full time working in the business, we started a no shop at dinner rule because my mom just couldn't take it because it was like constant. Because that was all we would talk about. We
Right.
were there working with each other all day long. We would come home and discuss new ideas and new projects and things like that. And my mom just couldn't take it. She was like, "We've got to talk about something else because I don't know what any of you are talking about, and I want to be part of this conversation with my family."
That's fair. That's a
Yeah.
fair request. Uh, so for a while, you and your brother owned the company,
Yep.
and what was that like? Like, I mean, did you guys get along? Do you guys ever fight? What was that like?
Yes. So we had our disagreements for sure, but for 10 years we managed the business together, and we basically that during that time learned each other's strengths and weaknesses, and rather than you know try to you know degrade each other for those weaknesses, we would play on each other's strengths. So like my brother was really good out on the shop floor. He was much more comfortable in front of a machine than he was in front of a computer looking at spreadsheets or QuickBooks files.
Sure.
And I was less comfortable on a machine. I could still do it for sure. Um, but I was always the computer guy. So I had, no problem building custom Excel sheets and formulas and stuff to, come up with price lists and, quote systems and do things like that.
So
So we
more
each kind
like
of,
businessy kind of side of things.
yeah, I guess you could call it that. I mean, it's all business, but I guess mine
Sure.
was
Yeah,
more
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
behind the scenes business. His role was more product focused.
Okay. What was it like? I know your brother's technically not working there currently. Like, what's that? What
Yep.
happened?
So he, the way he describes it, I don't want to speak for him too much, but he described it as his early midlife crisis, and he says early because our parents are still around and everything, but
Sure.
he's reaching that 40-year-old period. He's got two kids who are just starting school, and all he's ever known is the shop and Western Massachusetts. And so he's kind of having this, little crisis as to, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? It's the only thing I've ever known. I've never gone anywhere different. I've never lived anywhere different. I've never worked anywhere different. And so we basically came to an agreement. I was like, you know what? You need to figure out what you want to do. Your personal satisfaction, your mental health is more important to me, than the company is. So he took a year of hiatus, bought an RV, drove around the country in his family. Basically trying to figure out what he liked, what he didn't like, and just see if a change was what he really wanted. And ultimately, after that year of me running the business and him finding himself, he decided. Well, we both decided that I think it would be best for our relationship, as well as him and his family's well-being, if he left the company and I took over full control.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this. I don't know if he'll listen to this, but I love your brother Kevin. He's always treated me incredibly well. You both did, as I was, growing, because you guys were one of the first suppressor companies to ever give a shit about TGC.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that he's exploring, finding out who he really is and what he really wants to do. I love seeing that for people that want to seek that out. It's really healthy. It's
Yeah.
healthy.
Yep.
So you now have full control.
Yep.
Have you put down the iron fist?
That's not really my management style.
You don't strike me as that kind of guy.
If push comes to shove, yeah, if you push my buttons and or if you're directly going against something that I asked for, yeah, the fist is coming down. But I find you attract more bees with honey than you do with salt. So
Sure.
I would much rather build a team who understands what I want, listen to their needs. At the end of the day, yes, it does come down to whatever I want is what goes. But I'm not just going to walk around the shop going, you're an idiot. Don't do that. You're doing that the wrong way. Do it my way. I'm open to discussion,
Sure.
because I can, look back as I walk around the shop and say, why did you do this way and not that way? And I think that's a much more productive discussion, because then I can learn what works and what doesn't work for people. And they might be doing something that doesn't look right to me, but I found out that they're 10% more efficient running the machine that way because they've figured out it's a little rhythm that works for them. So, I try to look at everything with open eyes and open ears. And, there are no wrong opinions or wrong decisions until they've been proven wrong. That's kind of how I look at things.
That's a healthy way to do it too. Look at you guys representing the state of Massachusetts well. I want to talk about this because I sat down. We did a video. This video is on TGC for reference to people that want to listen to. Kevin and I sat down when I was up there last, and I asked him, and I'm going to ask you the same question: why stay in Massachusetts? We'll see if you have the same answer.
Well, I don't know if I have the same answer as him, but it's the same answer that I've basically given forever. Part of it is comfort. I'm not going to deny that. We have a good thing going here with the business. Obviously, the politics of Massachusetts suck, and we would love to pick up and move somewhere else.
Aggressively
And
suck. They suck
yes,
hard.
they're actively trying to suck as hard as they can right now, and it seems like every 10 years we cycle through a new level of suck.
It's gone from suck to blow.
Yeah. And it's really easy to pick up equipment and tools and stuff like that, and move it down south or out west or something like that. But I've also got 50 families that rely on me, and that's a lot harder to replace. Like I said before, my employees aren't just employee numbers. They're not codes in my payroll system. I know what their families are going through if they're willing to open up. I know if they've had trouble with their dogs or if one of their kids is struggling in school. And I have a responsibility to those families as well too, to make sure that they're taken care of the best that I can and that they have a job. And you know I'm not going to pick up and move my business because it looks good on Instagram, or it's going to make people say, yeah, they really stuck it to Massachusetts. Now they're in a free state. I'm not going to do something for the publicity like that. It's got to make business sense, as well as personal sense to do it.
I mean, that first of all, that's very close to what your brother said. Very close, which means you guys have always been on that sort of same wavelength for that. But I know that's got to be some kind of internal struggle between, like, you're clearly a gun guy, you're clearly invested in the Second Amendment,
Yep.
and you're in a place where they don't give a fuck about the Second Amendment. What
Yeah,
do you have that struggle?
it's definitely an internal struggle. It'd be nice to work and live someplace where I don't have to skirt around the fact of what I do for work.
Hmm.
When I meet someone new in town or go out to dinner, or even if we're traveling, being from Massachusetts, people ask what I do for work, and my initial response is, oh, I own a machine shop, and then the
Mm.
follow up question is, what do you do? Oh, well, we make usable small parts out of big useless chunks of steel and aluminum. And then we get into like,
That's a
I'll drop
gross oversimplification.
and then I'll say, oh, we're in the defense sector, and then I can kind of gauge how they go from there. And
Mm.
if they go, oh, that's really cool, then I can kind of explain and open up. But if I can see that they're kind of like putting up that wall of like, oh, that doesn't sound like something that I would like, then the conversation just kind of ends there.
Yeah.
And one of the first shows that we went to was down in Texas in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and we're at dinner with our friends, and the waitress at the steakhouse comes up to us and goes, what are y'all here for? And me and my brother and my manager kind of look at each other like, oh shit, what do we say? And the guys are with and go, oh, we're down the road, we're here to shoot a bunch of guns and machine guns and silencers. Yeah, we got it all. Y'all should come down and check it out. And she was just like, oh yeah, that's great, my boyfriend loves that, we'll see if we can come down this weekend. And the three of us just looked at each other like, holy shit, we are not in Massachusetts anymore.
Yeah, that's a very, very different reaction.
Yeah.
I usually go with the I own a media company. I do like marketing, and then it depends. Like if I'm at an overlanding event, I always go I own a media company in the gun industry, and like that I like to sometimes I mix it up a little. Sometimes hit somebody in the face with it and
Yep.
see if they squirm. Most people, I will say this, most people in the overlanding community are like, yeah, I carry two, but they don't talk about it. It's very
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Totally interesting. So you've been running this company, or you've been involved in the company for a while. You've been running it for a few years now by yourself. What is your biggest struggle when you're running this gun and suppressor company? What is your biggest struggle?
Biggest struggle, I would say now and kind of always for us has been finding good long term help. Part of that being the area that we're in.
You mean like the
Right.
people that work for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So like machine operators and assemblers and things like that. And part of the reason for that is our location. You can go 10, 15, 20 minutes down the road into Westfield, where Savage Arms is based out of. And there's a ton of aerospace machine shops there. Barnes Air National Guard, or the Air National Guard is in Westover. They're close. We've got the Air Force Reserves in Westfield, and then just a lot of subcontracting and contracting for Boeing and guys like that in Connecticut.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of shops that require a similar skill set, that have a higher pay rate than I can offer, because they're making products that cost several $100,000, $1 million in some cases, and I'm making $500-600 suppressors, $100 handguards. So there is some scale in the industry that we're in the area that we're in.
Right.
And so that's always been difficult for us. We've tried to do our best to make it a good working environment, have a good attitude. provide other things for the employees when we can, parties and picnics. And like I said, just that personal touch of like, I actually know who you are and I care about what you're going through, because you're not going to get that at a shop with, 150, 200 employees. You're going to be that number in the books and you're going to be that output report, that some manager's looking at from their office.
I feel like it's probably like I have never experienced this because I've never had a team that large. But I feel like it's probably difficult to give a shit after you get to like a certain number of people. And I don't know what that number is, but like you just can't physically, like your brain can't have the capacity to give a shit about that many people.
I think it
At least
kind of
on like a
depends.
deep level.
I think it depends kind of on your own personality and what you get back from the person too. Because there's people in the shop, that I definitely don't know about their lives because they don't want me to, and I respect that.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
but they're good people that show up every day, and I'm happy to have them. But if they also want to show up and cry on my shoulder for a while, I'm there for that too.
Sure. I mean, that's the best thing you can do is just give your employees what they need,
Yeah,
and that's rad. So we have known each other for a long time. Like, I think the first can that I really truly understood from you guys was the turbo.
yeah. I think
And
we brought you through the whole start to finish of the turbo when you did the factory tour, right?
yes,
Yeah,
and actually it may have been the resonator at that point. I don't remember.
it may have been the
It was
development on
it
those
was somewhere in
two.
there because I know
Yeah,
we
because
gave the turbo an award at
yep.
SHOT like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, I don't remember the year, but I still got it. It's best accessory of SHOT Show.
Uh, there you go. Best
Yep.
accessory, and it was. It's still a great can. I've got one. We've now increased the suppressor product line significantly.
Yeah.
What are like the top sellers right now for you?
It bounces around a little bit, but consistently it's the resonator and the R9, so the 30 cal and then the steel 9 millimeter.
Why do you think that is?
Versatility is what it comes down to. A lot of folks who just want to shoot rifle rounds will buy the resonator 30 cal. You could shoot any 30 caliber factory load up to 300 Remington Ultra Mag. You can obviously shoot, 6.8s, 270s, obviously 223, 5.56, 300 blackout. It's going to cover basically every rifle round people would want to shoot, except for like 350 Legend and 338 Lapua.
I mean, to be fair, 350 Legend is dumb.
You live in
And there's a whole bunch
Pennsylvania.
of people that just hit pause and ejected from this episode.
You live in Pennsylvania, aren't you? In a straight wall cartridge state?
No, dude, you can't hunt with a rifle in the county I live in. You have to hunt
Yeah.
with a shotgun.
Well, our whole state is shotgun only for
Yeah, yeah.
white-tailed deer. So
Yeah, I'm just teasing. I like it's fun to make fun of people. I do it with like 40 Smith and Wesson guys too.
those guys deserve it, though.
Yes, they do. Like if you're still carrying a 40, what's wrong? You
We were
okay, bud?
talking about 40 cal in the shop today, and I was like, I guess if you want like extra recoil and the same performance, 40's great.
Yeah, would you like more recoil and the same performance as a 9?
Yeah,
Yeah. And bullet technology has come a long way for that anyway.
yeah,
So the R9 and the resonator,
yep.
how
And
many like what you're offering what, like 10, 12 different cans at this point? I don't know how many. It's a lot.
well,
It's a
we've
lot.
got. Let me just kind of run down the list. So we've got the Phantom in 22. We've
Yep.
got the Turbo T3 and the Turbo.
T3, we're up to the 3rd
We're up to
edition
the
of
third
that.
edition. Yep. The TKRB with the reducible back technology. That's the short turbo.
Oh, the tiny one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Fat Cat in 5.56.
I've got one. You probably can't see it. It's like right off frame, sitting back here on my
You're gonna have to
DMR
show.
gun.
You're gonna have to show me this because apparently you've got a gun that's just out of frame. You've got my cans that are just out of frame. I mean,
Yeah, all this.
I might have to call you out on this.
All the suppressors are right over here. I can't move the camera, but I will show you when we're done.
Let's see, and then we've got moving up the line 30 caliber. We've got the resonator and then the resonator K, the short version of that. We've got the R9, which is the 9 millimeter steel can, the R45, which is the 45 version of that. And then we've got the Sidewinder pistol cans in 9 millimeter and 45. And we've got Bad Larry and 338 Lapua and 8.6 Blackout. I wasn't counting, were you?
I was not counting. I was not.
At
It's a
least
lot.
10, maybe 12.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And then we've got our integrally suppressed models, our integral turbos and our integral resonators, and 556 and 300 blackout.
Do those count? I guess if the ATF counts it as a can,
Yeah.
uh, that's a lot. How do you decide what to make? Like, what's your process for that?
So unfortunately, we haven't enough models at this point where I can't just make all of them at once. And even when we had a reduced number, it was always like, we were making a little bit of everything at any given time, but obviously it all kind of comes together at once.
Right.
And so basically we've just been cycling through 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 lot runs of each suppressor, and just balancing what we can make, all the different components to when it's all going to come together and actually ship.
I more
Uh,
so meant like when you're coming out with a new product, how would
okay.
you how would you decide what that new product was going to be? Because that's a
So
difficult decision when
yeah,
you
definitely.
already make everything.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at the point where there's not really a lot else to offer. There's not really gaps in our product lineup. And so what we've been focusing on now more than completely new models is revisions to old models or improvements to, existing calibers. Whether that be, increased sound performance, reduced weight, if we can make the suppressor smaller, lighter, shorter, things like that. Obviously, with Bad Larry, we're filling a void for calibers, and then the R45 and the R9 were direct result from consumer feedback.
Sure.
We had guys who were buying the resonator to shoot most of their firearms on, and they kept saying, I have a 9 millimeter gun that I'd like to throw in the mix, so I can shoot my 5.56, my 9 millimeter, and my 308 all through the same suppressor. Because it's kind of like the holy trinity,
Yeah,
of
does
firearms.
I don't know if there are there's maybe a couple other companies that do a product like that, but that's not super common where it's pistol and rifle compatible.
Yeah, there's a few other competitors that will allow 300 blackout, but with barrel restrictions and subsonics only.
Right.
But ours will let you shoot full power 308 Winchester through it, and so the R9 is sort of our dual suppressor. And then for the
The
guys that have a 45 in the mix, or they want to shoot 4570, or they've got some 460 creation, the R45 fills that gap.
Wow, I didn't even think you put 460 in my brain and I went, "Ooh. Ooh." Uh I think the only other can that comes to my mind and somebody in the comments will tell me if I'm wrong, but is the Liberty Mystic or the Mystic X, whatever their current version. They
Yeah,
have the capability, but it doesn't go up to 45 because I think it's only 33 caliber, whatever that is. I think I don't
yeah,
know. Uh
yeah.
that's got to be difficult. Like you've got a whole bunch of stuff. Have you ever looked at like the real specialty cartridges? Because the thing I want from you is 100% very selfish. I want a small, lightweight 50 cal can. When
So
is that coming?
so right around the time that we were messing around with a 50 cal project was also when Barrett announced if you ran anything but their suppressor, you voided your warranty on your, you
Hmm.
know, very expensive firearm. And at the time, Barrett was basically the guys for 50 cal. You didn't
Right.
have these niche offshoots like we do today. And so that kind of just squashed the whole project. We knew it was going to be, low volume sales to begin with. And we sort of said, now I think with this announcement, it's not worth pursuing. It's just going to take up, production effort, sales effort that we could be focusing, towards other suppressors that are going to sell more.
See, here's the I'll tell you the calibers that I'm weird enough to have. That AR that I built with your handguard, that first one was a 50 Beowulf.
Yep.
I have a 50 can from Bowers. It's good. It's a little hefty because I had them put stainless baffles in the thing. So it can take anything, but the Beowulf is great. I have a 50 AE that I would love to get a threaded barrel for. And I've got two 500 Magnum rifles. And, I only have 150 cal can. We need to change this, Chris. We need to change this. Where's my titanium 50 can?
Your light, cheap, quiet 50 cal can, right?
Yeah, take the R9, bore it out, and we're good.
Well, I mean, we could probably make an R50 pretty easy enough.
See, look, this is how shit gets done. Dude, we should honestly, we should try that. It'd be fun. I'll bring the gun and the ammo. A
Yeah.
little
I don't know if you remember back to before we had the R series when we had the Wraith XL. It was the aluminum suppressors
I don't remember that
designed
one.
around subguns. Um, we had the Wraith 9 because we had an MP5 and we were like, we need to put a suppressor on this.
That's
And
fair.
the Wraith XL 45 came about because we had a guy behind the counter at a local gun shop in Connecticut who was saying, I'd really like to take something about this size and make it work for well, it wasn't 454 Casull, but it was oh, I'm drawing a blank.
Oh my gosh, there's so many interesting cards like
Um,
450
four,
Bushmaster,
nope, 454 SOCOM, 450 SOCOM,
458 SOCOM.
458 SOCOM. So he had a 458 SOCOM AR platform that he had custom built, like the whole thing himself, and he had custom loaded subsonic rounds. Because when he told us what 45 he wanted to shoot through it, we were like, "You're not going to put that through an aluminum suppressor more than a handful of times." And he was like, "No, no, no, I've got custom subs that I've loaded for this. It's only going to be subsonic." And so we're like, "All right, this sounds like a neat project. Let's, we can basically take the existing tube and muzzle caps and baffle and just kind of size everything up for the 45." And we're like, "Oh yeah, this was actually pretty cool." I don't know if there was anybody else who was actually running 458 SOCOM subs through their R40 or their Wraith 45, but there were a lot of guys running 45 ACP.
I mean, subsonic 458 SOCOM is a shitload of fun.
Yeah.
I've shot a good amount of it. It's just fun. I like big, heavy, slow bullets.
I love to shoot 8.6 blackout through the Bad Larry and watch people's jaws drop.
I don't have a ton of experience. I think the first time, I think you guys brought that out like the 8.6. I think you brought that to GunCon this past year, but I still I barely shoot at my own event.
Yeah.
So what is it about 8.6 that you are drawn to versus like a blackout, a 300 blackout?
I mean, it basically just all comes down to muzzle energy. With that cartridge, you've got a big, heavy, fat, slow bullet. So you've got a lot of energy in the mass, and you don't need the speed, basically. And for me, it's just kind of silly that you can lob an 8.6 millimeter bullet, below the speed of sound, and it sounds like a spitball getting blown through a steel pipe.
Does it really? I've
Yeah,
I've only ever heard it at like range days where there's
yeah,
all kinds of stuff going on. I've never
yeah. You
heard it
get
by
yeah,
itself.
yeah. You got any kind of subs, you got to shoot alone. If they're
Did I lose you? I think I might have lost you. Might be on my end.
You still there, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you. There it goes. I don't know if that was your end or my end. We'll figure it out.
I don't know. It
I'm
went
glad you're
down
back.
on me
Hi,
for a minute.
welcome back. Hi, welcome to Chili's.
Add a little
So
commercial break in there, right?
yeah, right. So really just the fact that it's this super duper quiet, big old bullet kind of thing, that's what you're drawn to?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it to, hunt or take down game or anything like that. I use it,
Yet.
yeah, I use it strictly, for the giggle factor. Same reason
Sure.
that I would do, um, 300 black or yeah, 300 blackout subs through or any subsonic round through a bolt action because it's basically about as quiet as you're going to get.
Right.
And when you've been shooting full power 308 all day, and everybody's like, okay, yeah, this is really great, and then you put a subsonic round through, and they're just like, that was real. It's just fun.
Yeah, like did that go off? I
Yeah.
didn't know. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Something
especially if
wrong
you're
with that?
shooting distances at steel. It's like, okay, well, we put this round in, so hold about 8 feet over now, and then you hear like ting,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and everybody's just like, it's like we're all 10 years old again. We're all just smiling, giggling.
The 500 Magnum, I've shot some 440 grain subsonics at 100 yards, and it still smacks the shit out of the piece of steel.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what an 8.6 is doing. It sounds like fun. It's just so damn expensive to shoot.
Yeah.
Like the ammo's expensive. I haven't seen a shitload of barrels available. There's maybe like a couple companies. Maybe are you guys doing an 8.6 like upper or anything like that?
No, we're not. No. And
No plans to?
no plans to. Just because again, that's kind of bolt gun territory, and we haven't treaded in that much really.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a lot of what held people back on 8.62 was when it first came out. There were issues, with bullet weight and twist rate and non-stabilizing, and so for a long time we were saying like, we don't want to make an 8.6 can because these things are tumbling all over the place. But it had growing pains like any other cartridge, and it seems to have it figured out. And now it's a fun round to go out and quietly shoot.
That reminds me of some growing pains of the blackout, specifically in a Remington. I don't know. You may remember this because you guys dealt with it in Suppressor Baffle Strikes. There was a run of Remington 700s chambered in 300 blackout that said they were 1 in 8, and they were like a 1 in 14 inside the barrel or something like that. And it was just basically not, this is an exaggeration, but shooting them out sideways kind of thing. I
Right.
remember hearing that. Guys were like, why won't this shoot?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong twist rate on the barrel.
Right. Yeah.
Whoops. Glad
Yeah.
to hear
I
that
remember,
it's going great
when
now.
6.8 was, trying to take over 5.56, when there was that
Oh,
military
yeah.
bid for an intermediary cartridge. And, very quickly they came out with, SPC2 chambering because they were realized that they were overpressuring things. But even
Is that
then,
why they changed it? I didn't know.
that was my understanding. Yeah, they added more length to the throat so that they had a little bit lower case pressures. Um, but similarly, there, you had some companies loading that with large rifle primers, some loading it with small rifle primers, and so the ballistics were all over the place, from one box of ammo to another. But then that all got sorted out, and then 300 Blackout came out and just kind of like shoved 6.8 back in the corner.
Has anybody like I have it's funny now because I have a bunch of 6.8 mags, but I have it for the weird cartridges like Valkyrie and all that. Like, by the way, what are your thoughts on 224 Valkyrie?
Um,
Tell it to me straight. What do you really think?
I mean, like 224 Valkyrie. What was the super fast round? What was it? Ruger did a few years back. Was it just 224 Ruger or 222
204
Ruger?
Ruger.
204 Ruger. Um, I'm sure
There's
they have their
there's
places.
22 Nosler, 204 Ruger, now 22 Arc, which
Yep.
we've messed with a little bit. It's just like a couple 100 feet per second faster with the
Yeah.
same bullets as the Valkyrie.
I mean, I think they have their place for certain people. Um,
And what place
I'm
is that?
Well, not my place. I'll say that. I'm more of an endurance shooter. I don't want to be changing out barrels every couple hundred rounds because the bullets are going so fast; they're just burning things up. Yeah, but for the precision shooter guys like that, where they're looking at it like a race car. I own a fast car, but I'm not going to rebuild the motor every time I take it out. But these drag racing guys are, and
Sure.
that's great for them. But I'd rather be able to just turn the key and go. Um, you know, So I mean, all these things have their place for different people, but
Look at
like
you
I said,
being diplomatic.
I'm not going to come out and say it sucks because
That's
I
okay.
might
I
I
will.
might
No,
think it
well,
sucks, but other people might be like, "That's the best thing ever. What are you talking about?" And yeah, it's great for them, but not for me.
so
That's why we have hundreds of thousands of different cartridges to choose from.
right, right. There's an ass for every seat, so to speak.
Yep.
I will shit talk the Valkyrie simply because Federal. The problem with Valkyrie was not the cartridge. The problem was Federal. They came out and said this is 1,000-yard cartridge, and the answer is no, it fucking isn't. No, it isn't. Nobody, at least for the first like 4 years that was out, nobody had a gun that was not shooting. Like nobody was shooting factory ammo at that range. It was
Yeah.
all like, oh, I've got a 90 grain hand load that won't fit in an AR mag that I'm shooting out of a bolt gun. I got it to hit.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Uh, are there any of these sort of whiz bang cartridges that you like 8.6? Is there anything else that you're actually using on like a semi regular basis? Like, what's your hunting rifle right now?
308. Um, 308 worked. Back for our grandparents. It still works today. I'm not going to mess with something that I can find off the shelf and dozens of different hunting and precision and bulk ammo loads. Um, and if I want to reload it myself, brass is easy to get, powder is readily available.
That's true.
Bullets are easily available. Um,
I'm
if it ain't
surprised you
broke, don't
haven't
fix
switched
it.
to 6.5.
No, I never got into 6.5. I think when 6.5, well, all the various 6.5s and 6.8s were coming out, I just kind of got cartridge overload. It's like, this week it's 6.5 Grendel, and this week it's 6.5 Nosler, and 6.8
Yeah.
this and 6.5 that and 6mm this, and I kind of just threw my hands up and went, I'm just gonna stick with 308. The hell with it.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's fascinating, man. There's a lot of people like you in the gun industry that have seen the trends come and go. You've been in the industry since you were a young guy, and you've seen all the trends,
Yeah.
especially in the last 10 years, all the wacky shit that people are trying to put out there.
Yep.
Is there anything that came out that you miss that's like not available anymore or not really a thing?
Not really. I mean, my whole family jumped on the 6.8 wagon hard. We've all got hunting rifles still in 6.8. You can still find it, but it's not like, the go-to cartridge that it was back then. Because, like I said, 300 Blackout basically just crushed that. But even when 300 Blackout came out, we were skeptical because, like most other people, they were going, well, it's not really that different than 7.62 by 39.
Mm.
Um, and looking at it from a ballistic standpoint, it's like you're trying to send a 110 grain projectile and a 220 grain projectile through the same twist barrel. Good luck with that. But
Oh,
again, people have found out what works and what doesn't work over time, and now I think it's one of the more versatile cartridges out there.
I don't disagree. I think Blackout's a lot of fun. I
Yeah,
still wish I don't know how this happens, but I still wish it was cheaper to shoot. Like it's still what I would consider borderline expensive to shoot a lot of Blackout, and it's
yeah,
fun. But there's something about just like a basic 16-inch 5.56 that I just kind of fall back to, and I don't know if that's because it's lightweight, and I don't know. I don't know.
yeah.
It's tough. It's
It's just a handy package. It's not any heavier or bigger. There's no really substandard parts other than the barrel compared to an AR-15. The bolt's the same, the mag's the same.
right.
Um, but you can sling a lot more lead with each shot. And shooting subs, with a suppressor on, it's just silly because you just hear the buffer spring going crazy in your right ear, and you just kind of laugh at that.
So we talked a lot about your cans. Uh, you guys specialize in AR-15s and AR-10 type parts. What are the things that like set you guys apart in that way?
So for our parts, it basically follows the same company philosophy. When we developed our first handguard, in the 90s, Knights Armament was one of the only commercially available offerings back then, and it was basically uh, excuse me, milsurp, to some of their military contracts, and it was like $500 back in the 90s for an AR-15 handguard, and we kind of looked at that and went, "That's ridiculous! Like we can do essentially the same thing and probably make it for a quarter of that cost." So we did that. Our first AR-15 handguard was like $98 or something like that. And even today, I think with inflation and everything, they're maybe up to $120. For a carbine length handguard. And so that's always been our philosophy throughout the product line is we're not going to rip the customer off. We're going to come out with a product that doesn't compromise on performance and price it in a way that the average person can actually afford it without having to take out a mortgage on their house for gun parts.
I can appreciate that. I mean, that's part of the reason I really like how you guys operate because that's always, from what I've seen, that's always been the sort of North Star.
Yeah.
What in the industry would you like to see happening? And I don't mean necessarily product specific. Sure, that can be part of it, but as a whole, what would you like to see the industry doing more of, less of, etc.?
I don't know if I have a good answer to that question. I would say 20 years ago, I would have liked to seen the industry come together and stop trying to stab each other in the back so often. And I think that has happened. When
Okay.
I first started getting involved, in the business itself and not just, running a machine, and product design and things like that. There were lawsuits flying left and right for,
Really?
infringement claims and things like that. And there was one particular manufacturer who just you know, basically if you got a letter from him, it's because he was suing you. Like that was the only time that this gentleman ever communicated with the rest of the industry.
Are you
There was
gonna
a
name names?
I'm not going to name names, but
Ah,
everybody who was there is going to know who I'm talking about. There was a big confrontation at SHOT Show one year where
really?
a competitor was looking at their products at SHOT Show when he comes raging over telling get your dick beaters off of my products and get out of my booth. And it's like, dude, they're here for the entire world to look at. Like be an adult.
I mean, nothing makes me laugh harder than somebody saying something, calling somebody else's hands dick beaters. I mean, it's so funny.
Especially like two company executives in a public industry setting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Was
just
this when it was still in
childish.
Orlando, or is this Vegas?
It was in Vegas, but it was when the show still flipped back and forth between Orlando and Vegas.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So it was
so
still relatively small at that point.
well, yeah, I've got pictures of SHOT Shows that my grandfather attended, and it's like literally in like the horse dressage section of like the arena. It's like a
Wow,
hockey rink size SHOT Show. I've got pictures
wow.
from when it first started. And look at
That
that, and I see the SHOT Show banner. I'm like, wow, we've come a long way since then.
back when the NSSF maybe had actually gave a shit about the industry, that would have been an interesting time to be around. Sorry, that's my opinion. That is not Chris's. I don't know what his is. So you think the industry has really turned into a more cohesive unit?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think we could, as an industry, do better?
No, I mean I think we're collectively working together pretty good. As most people know, I'm an American Suppressor Association board member. That's a collection of top people from a number of different competitive companies, and we all kind of have the same mindset of like we can work together and grow our market space. And we've worked hard to do so. We still have healthy competition, obviously, but it's more about letting the product speak for itself and trying to backstab or undercut each other.
That's excellent. I mean, that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm very curious about this because the industry has changed significantly, and I don't know when it started exactly, but it was around the time that the forms started processing at excessively fast rates by comparison to how they were. I mean, when I got my first cans, it took 11 months
Yep.
for approval from ATF. Uh, since then, things have changed drastically. What was that like, being in business and going, "Holy shit, we need to make more"?
Yeah, it was basically that holy shit moment. We've been investing in equipment and people, and there's just not enough hours in the day to meet current demand because of that.
It's still like
Um,
that.
we still haven't hit the bottom. Yeah, I don't know where it is, but it's still crazy. And what really blows my mind is I still got people who are either loosely in the industry or are friends or relatives of people in the industry, and they have no idea that Form 4s are down to like 5 days compared to the 10 months it was at. They just have no idea.
That's
You know,
wild.
it still seems to be like the hardcore NFA guys who get this, and the word just hasn't spread to like the general firearms community. And that just blows my mind, and it's such a huge change. I think when eForms got launched, it was a big deal because
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
you put E in front of anything and then everybody's talking about it, and it was a huge jump just in the way that ATF processed forms. It was literally the like first major improvement to how you could process forms since the fax machine. And so it was a
It
huge
really
jump in
was.
technology.
It
There
really
was a
was.
huge jump in technology and how they processed it. And it was kind of like everybody saying like, yeah, the ATF is finally getting off their asses and doing their jobs. Well, now they've taken that to another degree where like not only did they change how they did it, but they're doing it faster and more effectively and more efficiently now to the tune of, you know, not even talking about like half, but like a tenth or less of the time it took to process these forms. And the word just hasn't seemed to spread, which, like I said, the industry can't keep up with the demand. Um, so maybe it's kind of good that the word is kind of trickling out there, but it just
Sure.
blows my mind that, people who are, like I said, in the industry to some degree, still don't even realize that. And as a side story, my brother lives in a free state now. So of course, one of the first things we did was transfer some suppressors down to him, and he had a turnaround time. It was eForm 4 of 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yep.
What the fuck? That's amazing.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Yep. I think the scary
Did he
part for
call somebody at ATF? Like, how the hell is that happening?
I don't know if they recognize the name or what, because well, they might have recognized the last name, but it was my name on all the forms all the time. So I
Right.
think he just luck of the draw thing or what. But yeah, he was like, yeah, I went down there, I filled out my forms, and I got back to the house, and halfway through lunch, my dealer called me and said, hey, your stuff looks like it's ready to pick up. Like, even he didn't believe it.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. So what's the next step for the suppressor industry as a whole? Like, what do you see coming? Because everybody seems to be making the same shit at this point. It's either some lightweight can, a good 30 cal can. Like, everybody's kind of got a very similar product across the board, just very different price points. Where's the big change going to come from?
So what I think, what I see, at least from my perspective, is you've kind of got the baffled guys who are going after, muzzle and ear numbers, and kind of the purists, if you will. And then you've got the flow through guys who are focused more on, reduced blowback, no change in cyclic rate. Sound reduction is kind of a secondary concern. I see sort of a hybridation of those two technologies coming together. So you've got, maybe some just different designs, different baffles, similar to what we did, with the reduced blowback design of the 5.6 suppressors, but to a different level. So some combination of, hybrid baffle flow through systems.
Have you guys started messing with metal 3D printing yet?
We've got some designs and things like that. We haven't gone to the prototype stage. We've been working on a big project that, we hinted at a little bit at SHOT Show last year, which is starting to come to fruition. So that's been taking up all of our time.
I have been sworn to secrecy. I swear to Christ, I want to tell you so bad. All of you, I want to tell you so bad. I've been sworn to secrecy.
I got your signed NDA back today, so I know for
It's
sure.
True. It's true. Not only that, but you guys have been very good to me over the years, and I would never break your trust like that.
You know what? I feel kind of bad. It's the first time I've been on the podcast. Every time you've come up to shoot a video, I've been indisposed at some time.
It's true.
So it's been my brother on all the videos and stuff. I think there might be one short clip with both of us that you were able to tie us both down for.
Maybe. SHOT Show at least once.
Yep. And you're by far like the closest gun tuber to where I actually live. And like, I've never seen your van in person. I've never like visited your place, gone to your range. Like, I feel kind of bad. It's taking this long to like get this close.
You're just a bad friend, Chris. You're just a bad friend.
I know.
Well, dude, I don't want to keep you forever. Is there anything that the audience? Well, hold on. I don't want to. Let's talk about this for a second. You said you had prototype designs. I mean, 3D printing, is this coming to your company after this big product that you've been working on? Is that like the next step for YHM?
We've got a couple of ideas in the air that we're juggling at the moment. It's going to be kind of diverting resources to see which we think is going to get to market the most effectively, because we have spent a lot of time on this current project. Last year we had like 6 new products going into SHOT Show. This year we're going to have one big one.
Okay.
And so I'd like to get some other things to market more quickly. And the 3D printed, I think, is going to be a longer learning curve for us to get something that not only meets, the goals of the product, specs, but also meets the company goals. I'm sure I could come up with something that I can 3D print and it's going to cost $1,200.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to feel good about that.
I think what you guys really need to focus on is bringing a small polymer 9mm handgun to market. That would be revolutionary.
Something a single stack 9mm.
Oh, there you go. Now we're talking. Let's go back. Let's do that. What about a 1911? You thought about that?
We had an engineer working for us a couple years back, and he wanted so badly to get into the 1911 market, and we were like, the 1911 market is even more saturated than the AR market. Like,
that's true. I have a buddy. regularly sends me stuff about 9mm or like 10mm 1911 45 1911 whatever 1911s in general.
Yep.
And every time he sends me a single stack, I say single stack is dumb. It's dumb. We live in 2024. Single stack handguns are stupid.
Yep.
Stupid. There's so many better choices. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up? Anything you want to say to the TGC audience?
No, not really. I'm just happy to be, part of the TGC audience after this many years. Hopefully we can get me back sometime in the next decade and get back on the pod, talk about some new stuff coming out.
Dude, what, like January, dude? We're having this conversation again. We're gonna have an hour-long conversation about this new thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. Well,
Yeah,
stay tuned, everybody, because Chris is hiding some secret shit on you, and we can't talk about it yet because we gotta wait.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really big, change from our product lineup. It's it really fits our philosophy well as far as specs, design, and price point. I think it's going to be an awesome addition to our lineup, and it's going to be great for the market.
I swear it's a small 50 cal can. Small, like a 50K. I'm kidding. It's not. Thank you all for listening and watching. I really appreciate you guys. Chris, I really appreciate your time. This is a lot of fun. This is the longest I think we've hung out in years.
Yeah,
Literally.
other than a few passing minutes at SHOT Show.
Yeah, that's always how it is. Like we see each other, like, oh hey dude, how are you? And then we gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's podcast season now. The sun's down here at like 5:00. So
yes. Yes, it very much is. It's yeah. Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Anybody out there listening, watching, etc. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate all of you. Check out our sponsors, Camerado and Vertex. The code is TGC. Go to their websites. Use the code. It'll help. I promise. See you guys soon.